Premananda Prabhu Poufet traduction, mais c'est pas nécessaire. Is that an anglais? Tout correct? Bien bon. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I am very happy to be here with you all. And we are going, well, actually, I was requested to say something more about chanting. So, yes, so I will read a verse from the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the most confidential knowledge. And I'll read verse 14. Yeah, verse 14. Just as a matter of interest, who here, except for Premananda Prabhu, who knows everything, who here can tell me what is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 14? It is a challenge for you. Who knows? 9:14. Okay, well, except for Shamachandra. Okay, you cannot what?
I can't recite the verse, I don't remember it, but I know it's about the Mahatma Das Kirtan.
It's almost, yeah, that was the verse before. But, all right, if I give you the first word, would that help? Satatam. Satatam Kirtayanto Mam. Come on, devotees. You can do better than this. It's such a famous verse. It's really such a famous verse. Okay, anyway, here we go. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridha vrata namasyantas chamam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Translation. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Isn't that just a wonderful verse? Very beautiful verse. So let's have a look at the purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Mahatma cannot be manufactured by rubber stamping an ordinary man. His symptoms are described here. A Mahatma is always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. He has no other business. He is always engaged in the glorification of the Lord. In other words, he is not an impersonalist. When the question of glorification is there, one has to glorify the Supreme Lord, praising his holy name, his eternal form, his transcendental qualities, and his uncommon pastimes. One has to glorify all these things. Therefore, a Mahatma is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who's attached to the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmajyoti, is not described here as Mahatma, is not described as Mahatma in the Bhagavad Gita. He is described in a different way in the next verse. The Mahatma is always engaged in different activities of devotional service, as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing and chanting about Vishnu, not a demigod or human being. That is devotion. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu and Smaranam, remembering him. Such a Mahatma has firm determination to achieve at the ultimate end the association of the Supreme Lord in any one of the 5 transcendental rasas. To achieve that success, he engages all activities, mental, bodily, and vocal, everything, in the service of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. That is called full Krishna consciousness. In devotional service, there are certain activities which are called determined, such as fasting on certain days, like the 11th day of the moon, Ekadasi, and on the appearance day of the Lord. All these rules and regulations are offered by the great acharyas for those who are actually interested in getting admission into the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the transcendental world. The Mahatmas, great souls, strictly observe all these rules and regulations, and therefore they're sure to achieve the desired result. As described in the 2nd verse of this chapter, not only is this devotional service easy, but it can be performed in a happy mood. One does not need to undergo any severe penance and austerity. He can live this life in devotional service, guided by an expert spiritual master, and in any position, either as a householder, or a sannyasi, or a brahmachari. In any position and anywhere in the world, he can perform this devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus become actually Mahatma, a great soul. I'll read the verse again. Satatam kirtayanto mam, yatantas cha dridha vrata, namas yantas chamam bhaktya, nitya yukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prajane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha Patidanam bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So again, I am very happy to see all of you. Mo bien content. Trouvé. Oui? Trouvé. Correct, to correct. Trouve. Con. Anyway, when I was in school, and I studied French for like 8 years or something, trouve meant to find. But anyway, that's okay. When you see something, you find it also. So let's not stress about it. Hare Krishna. So this is just a really wonderful verse. And it is coming immediately after another very wonderful verse, which is describing or beginning the description of who is a Mahatma, or what is a Mahatma. I think you all know enough Sanskrit or just enough Hindi or Bhojpuri to know what Mahatma means literally. Maha means great, and Atma, well, in a sort of very strict sense, means soul, like the soul within. But in a broader sense also, it means person. Well, it can even mean mind, actually. It could, like many Sanskrit words, depending on the context, it may have multiple meanings. But here it's being used in the classic sense, a great soul, or even really someone who is spiritually developed, spiritually advanced. This is a Mahatma. And as Prabhupada says here, you can't just manufacture a Mahatma by rubber stamping. You understand the idea of rubber stamping? You know what a stamp, rubber stamp. You have your stamp pad, and you go up to someone, and on the forehead you go, Mahatma. Yes, this is rubber stamping someone, an ordinary person, as if they're Mahatma, as if they're a great soul or spiritually developed person. And very foolish people, very, very simple, too simple. People who are too simple and just sort of a little, just plain unintelligent. If they see that Mahatma, then they may think, oh, this is a Mahatma, this is a great person, spiritually developed. I was on a train some years ago in India, and there was some, sort of sadhu type. If you've been to India, you would know what I mean. Wearing saffron robes and sort of, you could say, looking the part. And he came up to me and said, "Oh, Mahatma Ji." That's how he addressed me. Well, anyway. But he just, of course, he didn't know me at all. But he just assumed, just because I was dressed in a certain way, oh, Mahatma Ji. So it's sort of like rubber stamping, just by dress. If you read Prabhupada's biography, Leelamrita, you'll see there Srila Prabhupada tells the story of when he was a child. There was a man who lived like on the same block, just down the road, and he made a living by begging. And he was a householder, and he had some, small house down the road there. And in the morning, he would dress up in saffron, and he would beg. And then later in the day, he would change into a sort of regular white clothes and do something else. This is classic rubber stamping, a type of rubber stamping. And if people are silly enough, really, then they may accept. They may accept. But we don't want to be silly. This is one of the things about Krishna consciousness, that in Krishna consciousness, we're trying to do a number of things, but one of the most foundational things we're trying to do is to educate people spiritually so they don't get taken in by such people, or even ultimately by anything really, but particularly spiritually, but also just materially, so they can see through the veneers of material life, which look good on the surface, but you go beneath the surface, that much, just a scratch, and you see there's no real substance there. Yeah. Like, we just got back, a week or so, a little while ago, from Jagannath Puri. We were there with Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu. And in South Africa, going back, I think, what would it be now, 25 years or something, some 20-odd years, they had apartheid. You know what I mean by apartheid? Racial segregation, legal segregation, living in different areas and sometimes using different facilities. Well, in Jagannath Puri they have apartheid. Yeah, white people are not allowed. Well, actually, not just white people. Anyone who's not born in India is meant to not be allowed into the temple, including whites. So, therefore, I've never, I've been in there, been to the place many times, but I've never been in the temple. So it's a form of apartheid. But, if you take our skin, here's my skin, if you scratch, I don't know, like a millimeter or two or something, then it looks like yours, if you scratch. And they had, so we have to learn to see beneath the surface, through the surface, because the surface is often very misleading, extremely misleading. In South Africa, I don't know if you're going to mind me saying this, there was a thing called petty apartheid, means sort of, whimsical or foolish or even a joke apartheid. And the joke was that, listen to this is actually quite a good one, although it's a little unpleasant. In some places, more or less as a joke, people suggested, look, the white people, it's their skin, and the non-white people, it's their skin. There's this difference, and therefore everything has to be separate. So someone suggested maybe there should be separate sewerage systems. When particularly African people are living as they would call them domestic servants, like the maid or the gardener or something like that. And they're living in the same place as the white people. Maybe we should have separate sewerage systems so the stool doesn't have to mix, because You know, it was just a joke, really, because, you know, the white stool, oh, yes. And the African stool, Anyway, sorry for that. So, but my point is, we have to see through the facade, the veneer of material existence. But it's to think in terms of material existence. We're very conditioned. We're so used to thinking like that. And they say old habits die hard. Yeah, old habits, some of them really die hard. And they just keep popping back up in the mind. Yes. I remember, I don't know if I've told you this before, but many years ago, I think it was 1984, we were raising funds in Cape Town, South Africa, for building our first big temple in Durban. And we were given a place for like 6 weeks. We're in one spot in a shopping mall. They gave us a spot so we could do our fundraising, and we were there every day. But one day they moved us for some reason, and they put us by the music shop. Is selling, in those days, I guess, records or CDs, whatever, of pop music and all this. So we were right by the door of the music shop from like 9 in the morning till 5 or 5:30 in the evening. And devotees, listen to this. Écoutez-moi bien, s'il vous plaît. For some reason, that day, the entire day, from 9 till 5 or whatever it was, at least 5, they played one song. One. Ek number. A song by Stevie Wonder, and I promise you I was never a Stevie Wonder fan. And the song was called I Just Called to Say I Love You. Haribol. Krishna. No, the Krishna wasn't there. Have you heard that song? We caught you out. You should have said no. And we would have congratulated you. Anyway, they played this song the whole day. That was it. I don't know how many times. Means like at least 100 times. So we're hearing this the whole day. I just called to say I love you. And then, so in the evening, we went back to where we were staying by train. And we're chanting some rounds on the train. So there I was chanting some rounds on the train. Suddenly, within the mind, somewhere inside there, a little voice said, I just called to say. And then I realized, wait a minute, what is this? So, okay, stop. Hare Krishna, Krishna. I just called. So seriously. And really, I was never a fan of Stevie Wonder. But it was just conditioning. It just goes in and in and in and in. And before you know it, it's almost part of the system. It's not exactly part, but it's practically like that. So it took a while, a half-hour train ride perhaps. Maybe by the time we reached the end, it was gone. And it was not that I wanted it. It was not that I wanted it at all. It's just conditioning. Yes. So, for us to get free from our conditioning, all those old habits which die hard, and these attitudes, and even emotions, and things like this, perspectives, basic understandings of life. It takes time. It takes time, but it's not just that it takes time, but it takes effort to cleanse it out of the system. It really does. So, a Mahatma, or a spiritually advanced person, a spiritually developed person, a great soul, well, that's a very important type of person. And in the previous verse 13, Prabhupada gave the basic idea. O son of Prita, well, it's the verse, Mahatmanas tumam parata daivam prakritam ashrita, bhajanchananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. O son of Prita, those who are not deluded, the great souls, the Mahatmas, are under the protection of the divine nature. They're fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So that's like, you could say, just a little introduction. Up to this point in Bhagavad Gita, Mahatmas have not really been discussed, in specific terms, using the term Mahatma. But now it's just been introduced. And it's not so much of a description of what they're like, what they do, who they are. It's just saying that there are such people, really. And so they're not deluded. In other words, they're not in ignorance. They are protected by the divine nature, and they're fully engaged in devotional service. I mean, that's a description, of course, but it's just a very broad description because in devotional service there's so many things. So they're fully engaged in devotional service because they know Krishna as the Supreme Lord, original and inexhaustible. But now, this verse 14 is becoming somewhat more specific. How you could recognize such people, at least certain like main characteristics, recognizable characteristics. So when you see a person who is doing the things mentioned here in this verse 14, then you can know, aha, this is a Mahatma. This is a great soul. This is a spiritually advanced or spiritually developed person. And if you happen to meet such a person, that is very good for you, because the association of such people, great souls, spiritually advanced, developed persons, the association of such people is extremely valuable. So how do we recognize? What sort of characteristics does such a person have? This is what the verse is saying. So what's the first one? Devotees. Satatam kirtayanto mam. Always, satatam specifically means always. Kirtayanto mam. Always chanting my glories, Lord Krishna says. That's very interesting, isn't it? It's the first sort of more specific, little detailed point how you can recognize such a person. fully engaged in devotional service, well, that's quite broad. But always chanting the glories of the Lord, that's something quite specific. You know, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is the description of how when so many devotees came to Jagannath Puri to visit Lord Chaitanya every year, there was a particular group from Bengal, from a place called Kulina Gram, which is, it's kind of Navadweep area. Actually, it's a little way out, but it's in the region at least. So the devotees from Kulina, they came, and every year, for 3 years, they asked Lord Chaitanya, 3 years in a row, they asked Lord Chaitanya the same question, exactly verbatim. You know, yeah, as I said, Premananda Prabhu said, everyone here understands English. Is it true? Is anyone, how would you say it in Creole? Is anyone struggling to follow my English? Quelqu'un pas comprend mon anglais. How's that? That's bad. Is it okay? Okay, I'll try and talk slow. So, okay, the inhabitants of Kulina Gram, Lord Chaitanya, same question. Exactly. Question is, how do you recognize a devotee? So Lord Chaitanya, first time, he said, anyone who chants the name Krishna one time in their life is the best amongst the common people. You know, just the people in the street, the ordinary people, not really the devotees. But he or she, because the question is how to recognize a devotee. So this person then is being included in the category of devotee because he or she has chanted the name Krishna one time in their life. Means, 70, 80 years, whatever. Really quite some time. And it's interesting, in the purport there, Srila Prabhupada gives a description. I mean, I'm slightly sort of deviating from the theme, but Prabhupada gives a description of how a Kanishta Adhikari may be a pure devotee. What do you think of that? Hari Bol. Anyway, like I said, it's not really what we were going to get into, but it's just very interesting. Kanishta Adhikari means a beginner, a real beginner. It generally means someone who's hardly trying to really practice Krishna consciousness. It's more like someone who may just come on festival days or Sunday program. When I was a new devotee, long time ago, in London, we had a sort of a nickname for people who would only come for the Sunday program, and they would only come just before prasadam was served. They had it worked out somehow. They would come, before prasadam was served, we'd have the arati, full arati for like 25 minutes. They would come just as the pujari started to offer the peacock fan. So we had a name for these people. We called them Krishna's Fan Club. Do you get it? Krishna's Fan Club, because they come when they're offering the fan. Okay. But, anyway, a lot of Kanishtas are sort of like that. I mean, some may be somewhat more advanced. Somewhat. But it's possible for a Kanishta Adhikari, under certain circumstances, to be considered a pure devotee. So, okay, then next year, following year, the same devotees, they're all very great devotees and very close to Lord Chaitanya. They came and asked him exactly the same question. How can we recognize a devotee? How do we recognize a devotee? And Lord Chaitanya said that anyone who is always chanting Hare Krishna is the best of the devotees. You see, now we've gone up a step. Actually, we've gone up basically to the Madhyam Adhikari level, someone who's really serious about Krishna consciousness. So anyone who's chanting Hare Krishna always is the best amongst the devotees. Following year, they came and asked exactly the same question, and Lord Chaitanya answered this time, anyone who, when you see them, you naturally feel inspired to chant Hare Krishna, that person is the best of the devotees. This means the Madhyam, the Uttamadhikari, really, like Mahabhagavat devotee. Lord Krishna is talking about the Mahatmas, the great souls. And when he does, the first thing he says, they're always chanting my glories. First thing. He says other things, but this is the first thing. And Lord Chaitanya, when he was asked, how do we recognize a devotee? Anyway, we explained what he said. And it's all about chanting. It's not that those devotees from Kulina Gram asked Lord Chaitanya something about chanting. Tell us something about chanting. You know, what is the potency of chanting or something? It was just a very broad question. How do we recognize a devotee? But Lord Chaitanya answered in relation to chanting. Of course, another interesting point, think about this one. This is Kali Yuga, of course. And in Kali Yuga, the process is chanting the holy names. Harir Nam, Harir Nam, Harir Nam, Eva Kevalam. Kalo Nasjeva, 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 Gatir Anyata. Famous verse, actually spoken by, well, at least in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that verse appears at least 2 times or maybe a few times. But the first time it appears is when Lord Chaitanya has just been initiated by Ishvarapuri. He's just been initiated, like minutes or just maybe, I don't know, half an hour ago or something. But just immediately after the process of the actual ceremony, Lord Chaitanya asks Ishvarapuri, so, now I'm initiated, what should I do? And actually Lord Chaitanya, according to Chaitanya Bhagavat, suggested, now I'm initiated, should I discuss Vedanta philosophy? Means dry, super dry, philosophy, heavy, sort of convoluted. Do you understand convoluted? Anyway, convoluted means all sort of, twisted around itself. Yeah. Philosophy, usually impersonal. Should I do this? Now I'm initiated. And Ishvarapuri said, no. What you should do is, and he spoke that verse, just chant the holy names, chant the holy names, chant the holy names of Krishna, Hari, Krishna. In this age of Kali, there's no other way, no other way, no other way to achieve the goal of life. Kali Yuga, Kalo Nastieva, in the Kali Yuga. Bhagavad Gita, devotees, note this. Bhagavad Gita is not spoken in Kali Yuga. It is spoken in Dwapara Yuga. Actually, it is spoken, I think, is it, if I remember correctly, 21 years before Krishna leaves the planet. I think the battle was 21 years before Krishna left the planet. So it's still Dwapara Yuga. And Lord Krishna is saying here that how do we recognize a great soul, spiritually advanced person? It's the first time he's really talked about it. And the first thing he says, always chanting. Always chanting, and it's not Kali Yuga. It's not Kali Yuga. And what to speak of that? But as you would know from the fourth chapter, verse 1, should I ask you what is chapter 4, verse 1? Or should we not dare to go there? Anyway, chapter 4, verse 1. I was watching, just earlier today, a few hours ago, a video of His Holiness Bhakti Anugraha Janardhan Maharaj giving class, I don't know if it was yesterday or a few days ago, but somewhere here, in a tent on chapter 4, verse 1. And he was only speaking in English. And then I got the idea, hey, he's not using a translator. Do I need to use one? So chapter 4, verse 1, Lord Krishna explains how he spoke the same Bhagavad Gita to Vivasvan, the sun god, on the sun planet. Prabhupada does a calculation in the purport there, if you're familiar with the purport, and he says that this means it was roughly 120,400,000 years ago. And it was on the sun planet, and the sun planet is a heavenly planet. It's way above the earth planet. I mean, in terms of opulence and longevity and standards of living and all that. And in the heavenly planets, they don't really have a Kali Yuga. They have a Kali Yuga, but you don't really notice it. It's just like, first of all, it's very short. It's very short because their perception of time is very different to ours. So by their standards, it's very short. And it's almost like, just like a cold day or just a bit of an unpleasant day. In the middle of summer, every now and then you get an unpleasant day and it just, it's not a big thing. It just comes and goes. Here, it's thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of years, Kali Yuga. But there on the sun planet, it's barely noticeable. And Lord Krishna there told Vivasvan, the sun god, exactly the same thing. Satatam kirta yanto mam. So what to speak of it, in this case here, not being in the Kali Yuga when you have no alternative but to chant, but even in higher, much higher planets where things are nowhere near as degraded as they are here. But still the Lord is emphasizing, what's a great soul? How do you recognize spiritually advanced person? What is the first characteristic? Satatam kirta yanto mam. It's a very interesting point, and it's an important point, that chanting is always practically the best thing, actually. If not always the best thing, it's always available in any yuga, under any conditions of material life, even very heavenly conditions. It's always available, and it's always very effective. And even generally, actually, it's the best. Prabhupada explains that in the other yugas, like first yuga is Satya Yuga, and who here can tell us what is the recommended Krishna conscious activity, Yuga Dharma, in Satya Yuga? Please, s'il vous plaît, aidez-moi. Gentlemen, one of you tell me. Are you just being humble? Humble bumbles? Well done. Thank you. Yeah, silent meditation, actually. Dhyan really refers to silent meditation. Then in Treta Yuga, it's fire sacrifice. Dwapara Yuga, it's deity worship. Kali Yuga, of course, it's chanting the holy names, particularly Hare Krishna. But Prabhupada explains that in the other yugas, those other recommended activities, it doesn't mean exactly that they are the best at that time. It's more in terms of the natures of the people, that they're just more inclined towards such things. Yeah. Rather than it's the most powerful, most effective, it's just the best thing to do. And Prabhupada explains that actually, in any yuga, in any heavenly planet, hellish planet, you name it, in any yuga, the most effective thing to do is always and everywhere to chant the glories of the Lord. The thing in Kali Yuga is, it's the only thing. It's the only thing. You can become God realized by other activities in the other yugas, but not in Kali Yuga. No choice. No choice. Nastiyeva. Kalo nastiyeva. Na, well, na means not. Asti. Asti means there is. Kalo nasti eva. Eva means definitely. Kalo nasti na asti eva. It's quite an emphatic statement. So yes, therefore chanting. Therefore we should chant. We should chant. Prabhupada once, you can read it, I think, at least a sort of abbreviated version of the story in the Lilamrita. One devotee comes to Prabhupada in Mumbai, and says, Srila Prabhupada, all service is absolute, right? Prabhupada agrees. And the devotee says, you know, I like serving in the kitchen. I'm not so much into chanting. So I think I'll just stay in the kitchen morning program the whole day. And I won't bother with the chanting because I'm not into it. Because all service is absolute. And Srila Prabhupada says, yes, but you must chant. You must chant your rounds. And the devotee then argues with Prabhupada. Yeah, it's a bit of a back and forth discussion. And he's objecting to Prabhupada, saying that actually you must chant your rounds. So if it goes back and forth a few times, and Prabhupada in the end, he's becoming a little frustrated, you could say, with the boy. And he says, Prabhupada says, I give you my blessings. You can eat and sleep all day, but you must chant 16 rounds. What do you think of that? Yeah? And if you read in Chaitanya Charitamrita, oh, I didn't bring my omniscient computer. It knows a lot more than me. I didn't bring it, so I can't tell you the verse number offhand. But there is a verse, well, a purport actually. There's a purport in which Srila Prabhupada talks about the chanting of 16 rounds. And Prabhupada says that of all the duties given to the devotees by the spiritual master, the duty of chanting 16 rounds a day is the most important. Yeah. You can also consider from the point of view that when a person is initiated, then they have to take 2 vows. One vow is to follow the regulative principles. The other vow is to chant not less than 16 rounds. Those are the only vows that we take in the sense of like verbally, we actually speak them. I will do this. Even when someone takes sannyas, which means a vow of celibacy, but it's not stated exactly. Of course, it's well understood, but it's just another interesting little point. Follow the 4 regulative principles. Chant not less than 16 rounds. Stated formally in front of all the devotees, the deities, the spiritual master, the fire. It means something. These things mean something. That's why they have such prominence. So, yes, in the chanting, how many of you have finished 16 rounds today? I finished 16 rounds. How many of you are still going to finish 16 rounds? Okay, honesty is a good quality. Madhava Chaitanya, are you going to finish 16 rounds today? Oh, okay, sorry. How many rounds did you do? 10. Good. Well done. Okay, yes. So, of course there's so many things we can say. Prabhupada, not always but generally, or often at least say, when he was giving his class, when he was giving initiation, oftentimes he would go through, at least mention the 10 offenses. And Prabhupada on numerous occasions made the point that the only thing between us and pure chanting, Shuddhanam means you are on the transcendental platform. You really are. You're practically ready to go back to Godhead. The only thing between us and the pure chanting Shuddhanam is our offenses. That's all. Simple. Just our offenses. Nothing else, really. So, yeah. Well, think about it. Let me put it this way. What's your favorite one of the 10 offenses? If you don't mind me putting it that way. What's the one you commit the most? Anyway, you just think about it. Prabhupada, when he gave initiation to one devotee named Kushakrata Prabhu, who became later great Sanskrit scholar, but unfortunately passed away. He had been a hippie, even a sort of crazy, psychologically imbalanced hippie. And when Prabhupada gave him first initiation, Prabhupada asked him, what are the 4 regulative principles? And he managed to recite them. You may have witnessed, I have on a few occasions, devotees, they forget one of the principles, or 2 of them even, and someone has to remind them. But anyway, Kushakrata Prabhu got it right. And Prabhupada looked at him and said, what is your favorite amongst the, breaking the regulative principle? So you consider. We just last night actually in Réunion, Île de la Réunion, oui? Or Île du Réunion, de la. Île de la Réunion, we had a program, something like this. Some less devotees, but very nice. And we did a japa workshop for 2 or 3 hours, japa workshop. And one part of it was, we listed out, we were projecting things. We listed out, it was, what would it be, like at least 15. I think it was a bit more than 15. Between 15 and 20 problems that devotees have in chanting japa. Things like, for example, the first one, in fact, was inattention. Yeah, inattention. You're chanting, but your mind is sort of going off in another direction, thinking about something else. Anyway, there's, like I said, 15 or 20 of these. Not that that's all of them, but that was just a list that we provided. Things like slurring the mantra, like really sort of through trying to chant more quickly, then you just don't pronounce things properly. The famous one, you may have heard us mention it. What is it now? Snick, snick, ram, ram, gay, gay, gay. Snick, snick, ram, ram, gay, gay, gay. What do you think? Prabhupada heard a devotee chanting like that once. Snick, snick, ram, ram, gay, gay, gay. And Prabhupada asked him, what is the snick, snick? Of course, the devotee was just completely in shock, being confronted like that by Prabhupada. And Prabhupada asked him, what is the snick, snick? Prabhupada said, do you want to go to Snick Loka? Prabhupada said, do you want to get the mercy of Snick? Another one, there's the dropping words. I mean, I guess it's sort of the same sort of thing. Dropping words. We call it the Hare Krishna mini mantra. You've got the Maha mantra, it's the great one. This is the mini version. And here's one version. Hare, just listen to this. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Good. chant your rounds more quickly. Or there's the Hare Krishna Maxi mantra. It's even more than Maha. It goes like this, something like this. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare, etc. This is the Maxi mantra. Devotees are such characters. They really are sometimes. But you think, what's your favorite problem? Favorite in the sense that you do it more often than others. And don't any of you tell me that you have no problem ever when you chant. Just don't waste your time and mine by trying to say that. Anyway, you think about it. Because being a devotee means well, like we said, we're trying to get to the essence. Not just be caught up on the surface level. Trying to go deeper. Trying to go into the heart. Come to the level of the heart. Transcendental platform. So just like when Lord Chaitanya received his initiation from Ishvara Puri, then he got instructed to chant. So Lord Chaitanya, he went away and he chanted. And he really chanted. And he just chanted and chanted and chanted. And when he chanted, tears, almost immediately, tears started pouring from his eyes. He started sort of stammering. He couldn't pronounce it properly. His body started shaking violently. He would even collapse sometimes. You know, just like when Lord Chaitanya was participating in the Ratha Yatra, Chaitanya Charitamrita describes, he would look back at Jagannath and he would see Krishna, Nanda Nanda, Krishna with a flute, Krishna from Vrindavan. And he'd just become so overwhelmed. He'd call out to Jagannath, but because of the degree of ecstasy, he couldn't pronounce it properly. His physical system couldn't do it. So Chaitanya Charitamrita says that Lord Chaitanya was just chanting something like Jaja Gaga, Jaja Gaga, Jaja Gaga, just overwhelmed in ecstasy. So the same thing or something similar, very similar, happened just after he got initiated and he started chanting. And so, acting like he's an ordinary person, the next day he came back to Ishvara Puri and sort of complained or just said, or he asked him, what sort of mantra have you given me? Because this is what happens when I chanted. And he said, I think I am doing something wrong. Please instruct me. Please help me. Because I'm trying to chant, as you said, but it's not working. And Ishvara Puri understood the situation, so he just laughed. And he said, congratulations, my dear child. You have perfected your life. So now we are not Lord Chaitanya. We are not Lord Chaitanya. But there is a principle here. Why was such a result coming from the chanting of Lord Chaitanya? Well, the main point actually. It's not the main point. The main point is he was chanting without offenses. At least we can learn that. take that as a lesson, something instructive. He was definitely chanting without offenses. Therefore, more or less immediately, these amazing things were just overcoming him. You know, I was chanting Japa this morning, yesterday, with some devotees in Reunion. We were chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I didn't see anything like that.